Hello, Matthew Bell with AlzheimersProof.com, and today I wanted to talk to you about Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Like other health-related awareness months, Alzheimer's Awareness Month was put in place in order to draw attention to it. And there are many other awareness months for a variety of different conditions. January is National Glaucoma Awareness Month. March has to do with colorectal cancer. April belongs to Parkinson's disease. October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Many months pull double or even triple duty. February belongs both to low vision and cancer prevention. May has to do with asthma awareness as well as skin cancer awareness. And September has an entire range including leukemia, lymphoma, myeloma, and ovarian and prostate cancers. But November belongs to Alzheimer's disease, along with diabetes, lung cancer, and stomach cancer. But the attention that Alzheimer's Awareness Month garners, as well as the other conditions that we just surveyed, serves at least two purposes. First, it helps to acknowledge sufferers and recognize their caretakers, but it also helps to draw attention in order for preventive screening as well as for charitable and funding purposes. In this video, I'd like to just take a quick look, little bird's eye view of what Alzheimer's Awareness Month is, what it means, and some of the historical highlights. As just mentioned, November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and I mentioned that part of the purpose of an awareness month is to draw attention to it for purposes of charitable funding. According to the Alzheimer's Association, and that's the group that organizes the Walk to End Alzheimer's, among other important works the Alzheimer's Association does. The Walk to End Alzheimer's, according to the Alzheimer's Association website, began as the Memory Walk in 1989, but in the year 2018 had over 65,000 teams that were able to raise over $90 million for Alzheimer's research. But Alzheimer's Awareness Month itself goes back to President Ronald Reagan. Reagan was, of course, the 40th president, and he served from 1981 to 1989. On September 30th, 1983, President Reagan issued Proclamation 5110, declaring November National Alzheimer's Disease Month. You can see his proclamation. Now, a proclamation is a statement issued by a president on an issue of policy, and it's basically a presidential directive, and that's according to Wikipedia via Google's snippet. If you actually click on the Wikipedia page, you'll see that proclamations issued by presidents fall into two categories. So one is a ceremonial proclamation, and the other is called a substantive proclamation. Substantive proclamations have to do generally with foreign affairs and things along the lines of that. According to Georgetown's Law Library, presidential proclamations, in terms of the vast majority of them, are issued to announce and support a ceremonial event, and then it gives the example of National African American History Month or National Hurricane Awareness. Given all of that, it's clear that Reagan's Proclamation 5110 was a ceremonial proclamation creating an awareness month for Alzheimer's disease. Now, all of these are registered at the Federal Register. I was able to get the text of the proclamation from the website govinfo.gov, and it says here it's a service of the United States Government Publishing Office. So it's actually part of the federal government. It's a federal agency in the legislative branch of the government. And that's where I actually obtained the text, which I will read portions of just for your information. So Reagan noted that in 1983, Alzheimer's was of increasing significance. And at that time, about 1.5 to 2.5 million people, many of them, most of them elderly, were suffering from Alzheimer's disease, even at that time, regarded as a major form of old age senility. And of course, senility, senile, having to do with being a senior, an aged person. Now, at the present time, and this is according to the 2019 Alzheimer's Disease Facts and Figures report issued by the Alzheimer's Association, 5.8 million people are living with dementia of Alzheimer's variety in the United States alone. So that's 5.8 million Alzheimer's sufferers just in this country. Now, depending on whether you are multiplying by 1.5 or by 2.5, that is going to be around a threefold increase in cases just from 1983. And if we go to the prevalence data that is published on the Alzheimer's News Today website, you can see that estimates are in the neighborhood of 44 million people worldwide suffering from Alzheimer's disease or related forms of dementia. And the problem's only supposed to get worse. In the United States, projections have it around 16 million in just a few years' time. Once again, Reagan, in his proclamation, noted that Alzheimer's was regarded as the fourth leading cause of death, a major cause of death back in 1983. More refined data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, have Alzheimer's disease listed as the sixth leading cause of death. You can see heart disease, cancer, unintentional injuries, chronic lower respiratory diseases, stroke, and then Alzheimer's disease coming in at number 6. Now, interestingly, in some cases, people develop Alzheimer's disease following some kind of drop in blood or oxygenation of the brain, which can be associated with stroke. So it's kind of interesting to note that if you put stroke and Alzheimer's disease together, both of the two of them together would constitute the third leading cause of death, just behind heart disease and cancer. Now, Reagan, in view of these facts, basically wrote this in the proclamation, quote, "To recognize that progress is being made against this disease and to show understanding and support for the individuals and the families and friends of those who are affected, the Congress of the United States, by Senate Joint Resolution 82, has authorized and requested the President to proclaim November 1983 as National Alzheimer's Disease Month. Now, therefore, I, Ronald Reagan, President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim the month of November 1983 as National Alzheimer's Disease Month. I call upon government agencies and the people of the United States to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies and activity." Ceremonial proclamation there, and in a very odd and tragic turn of affairs, in 1994, so 11 years after this proclamation, Reagan himself announced that he had Alzheimer's disease, and you can see this from the New York Times, the heading from November the 6th, 1994. In poignant public letter, Reagan reveals that he has Alzheimer's. And there you can see the letter that he handwrote and the text of it available at the reaganlibrary.gov, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. He said, quote, "My fellow Americans, I've recently been told that I am one of the millions of Americans who will be afflicted with Alzheimer's." End quote. He goes on to discuss briefly the fact that he and his wife, former First Lady Nancy Reagan, had to decide whether or not they were going to actually talk about this publicly. And he indicates that he decided to go ahead and do so. And you can see in the underline red, he did it, he said, to raise public awareness. Further down, he said he hoped that his disclosure might promote greater awareness of the condition, and then perhaps it will encourage a clearer understanding of the individuals and families who are affected by it, according to his words. And in fact, in 2019, which we just concluded, we were at the 25-year anniversary of Reagan's announced Alzheimer's, and that is according to today.com. And of course, that's just 1994 to 2019, 25 years. And they quote him in the subtitle, "I now begin the journey that will lead me into the sunset of my life." So Alzheimer's disease, of course, now Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Of course, at the time, again, from the joint congressional resolution that Reagan signed, the month was termed National Alzheimer's Disease Month. Now it is better known as Alzheimer's Awareness Month, but it continues to serve the purpose of drawing attention to Alzheimer's disease, getting additional funding, as we saw from the Alzheimer's Association's successful Walk to End Alzheimer's, and there are other initiatives as well. And finally, to try and help raise awareness so that people, perhaps who are suspecting that their loved one may be suffering from it, might go ahead and get the testing that is sometimes necessary. There are a number of things about that. I won't get into them here. I do have a separate video talking about testing, and I may get into that in more detail at a later time. Thank you so much for being with me today. If you did enjoy the video, please like it, please subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be alerted to new content as it becomes available. I thank you so much for being with me today. I hope that next Alzheimer's Awareness Month, it may mean just a little bit more to you having some of this information, and I look forward to seeing you again in another video. Thank you so much.